Let's talk about recycling and what we did in the past to reuse and to repurpose. Recycling is a major incentive today, as it should be. The planet is screaming out for less pollution, waste and landfill. It has never been a more important time for all to be thinking about waste and reusing items so we can give something back to the planet that we only borrow from our children. But what about when recycling was not important? Was there ever a time? What about how we lived and recycled in the past? Did we do this? Did we care? Did we even have to recycle everything anyway? The answer to some degree is no. But was this a bad thing? You'll probably be saying yes and blame the past generations for the state of the planet's environment. But what if I was to say, in some cases, that this is not true? You are going to get a big surprise when you hear how our forefathers dealt with waste and even the lack of waste. This is the story of how we dealt with trash in the 1970s and before. First of all, let's talk about milk, soda, medicine containers and some cleaning products as sold. They came in glass bottles. Milk bottles were washed and placed back on the doorstep for your milkman to refill, not in plastic containers as we see today. Pop or soda was in glass too, a few pence off your next purchase, making recycling a must. Medicine in glass bottles and sometimes washed out and returned to the chemist. Some cleaning products such as Ajax and soap for washing was in cardboard boxes, not plastic as we see in many cases today. Remember paper carrier bags from Fine Fare and supermarkets of that ilk? They were robust and we reused them quite a few times before we dumped them. They were more biodegradable than the flimsy plastic that we get today. Shopping for fruit and vegetables was not in plastic containers wrapped up in cling film. They were sold loose and all thrown into one bag, mainly made of paper. You could buy as much or as little as you needed, rather than pre-packed amounts that are asking to be wasted. So there was no need to throw away plastic. The meat that you bought from your butchers was wrapped up in greaseproof paper. No plastic, no hard-to-cut containers. It was still fresh. No need to recycle because there was nothing to recycle. Even our first ready meals, Vesta, do you remember them? Were in a cardboard box. We darned our socks, fixed our shirts, either with buttons or used cufflinks rather than throw them away. Parents knitted scarves and unravelled them to knit other things with the wool when we no longer wanted the item or we just stopped liking them. They called it make and mend. Our clothes dried naturally in the breeze rather than in tumble dryers. We had hand-me-downs as kids. Granted, families were larger then. Baby clothes were kept for a friend or a neighbour who was expecting, rather than just binning them. Our bins were made from metal that lasted for years, not plastic, and our bin men would carry them to the bin cart. Our metal was collected by scrap dealers who would pick up unwanted items for cash and it would be reused rather than sent to the dump. Sweet wrappers, butter, lard, eggs, cheese, all wrapped in paper, not plastic. Christmas chocolates like Roses and Quality Street were all in tins and they could be reused time and time again for cake tins or sewing supplies. Foodstuffs were thrown into the garden to compost. The land was for growing vegetables. On the subject of food, there was less choice and more local produce, and people made meals out of leftovers. Clothes were naturally sourced using cottons and animal hide left from the meat products rather than man-made plastics. We lived in an era of repairs. and things were made so they could be repaired, such as televisions, radios, record players and washing machines, rather than offshore items that have to be totally replaced when they conk out. Repair shops were everywhere, which included cobblers and tailors, so less expensive than replacements and less waste. Many companies had giveaways to save waste, not just a kind gesture, but another way to save waste. Butchers would give you scraps for the dogs. Chip shops would give you their extras when they were about to close. Broken biscuits sold at the market. Wonky fruit and veg also for sale, which no one cared about. They cooked and tasted exactly the same. As for bog-offs, well, what a waste of time they are. Sugary, salty products offered by the supermarkets, and more room for waste. Why not just reduce the price? That would be a better offer. Kids shared the same water in the baths, saving money predominantly, but it had a positive impact on burning fossil fuels. Do you remember the local fish and chip shop, wrapping your supper in newspaper? And talking about newspaper, we reuse that too for toilet paper, hanging on the back of the door of the carsy. Moving on to schools, well, we walked with friends or parents without gas-guzzling 4x4s. We painted and made items from paper to take home. We covered our paper books with old wallpaper to protect them. We made Christmas decorations out of paper for chains and greetings cards. We had cooked school dinners that were on ceramic plates, totally reusable, and drinks from metal mugs which lasted for years. Metal cutlery rather than throwaway plastic rubbish that just snapped easily. There are so many more ways that people recycled back then. If you can think of any more, let me know. But what are we doing now? Well, we will be quite correct in arguing that not everything is as environmentally sustainable as today. We use coal and fossil fuels, and of course aerosols that damage the ozone. But when you look back, this was what was presented us at the time. But what is available now? Plastic containers in abundance, less public transportation in rural areas, throwaway gadgets, mobile phones out of date in a month, as well as tablets and computers, televisions and radios that cannot be repaired anymore. The list is endless. So looking back, when I said things were not recycled back then, it's obvious there was much less waste to recycle. And it was made to last, and it really did last. Plus items were naturally repurposed because they were robust and made for reincarnation. It's been interesting to look back at how we used to live and how we saved in the past, and I hope you've enjoyed these memories too. Our social history videos on this channel, I hope that you'll find them interesting too. All I ask is excuse the type errors. I am dyslexic. To be honest, I don't mind if you do make a comment on them. And most importantly, thank you for taking this few minutes just to view.